بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله وحده والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده. ثم أما بعد. So last time we started we continued the session of the Seerah by discussing the difference between a prophet and a messenger, and if there was a female prophet or not. And we concluded the session with the beginning of the Dawah. Today we'll discuss the first steps of the Dawah. And the scholars divide the da'wah of the Prophet ﷺ into 4 stages. 4 مراحل للدعوة. So 4 stages of da'wah. السلام عليكم. عليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. لا شكرا الله. الحمد لله السلام. So there are 4 stages of da'wah. The first stage is considered the secret da'wah. Second stage is the public da'wah. Third stage is the public da'wah fighting only for protection. So we fight back. If people fight the Muslims, the Prophet ﷺ, the Muslim will start to fight back. The last phase of da'wah is the fighting for promoting the call of Islam and fighting anyone who would oppose the call for da'wah. And this is the last phase that the Prophet ﷺ died, passed away while sending some people for this phase. So again, the private da'wah, public da'wah, fighting only for protection and fighting back if the infidels, if the disbelievers fight the Muslims, they will fight back only. And the last phase, which is to start promoting da'wah and contacting different nations worldwide. So the first stage is called secret da'wah, da'wah السرية, الدعوة السرية. But some scholars actually say it was not actually secret. Why? For many reasons, and we'll go through the reasons in our session. So it was not secret because it was known, but let's say it was private da'wah. It was a private da'wah. Private da'wah means that the Prophet ﷺ was very selective when he started to promote the da'wah among the Quraysh. It was even not secret because some people outside Quraysh came to the Prophet ﷺ to convert to Islam. And we will talk about, for example, Abu Dharr al-Ghifari. Abu Dharr al-Ghifari was from Qabilat Ghifar and was outside Quraysh. And some people came even from Yemen. So this means that it was not actually secret. Let's say it was private. So the Prophet ﷺ was very selective. So we said last time who was the first Muslim and the first people to convert to Islam. So many narrations. But let's say, as we said, Abu Bakr was the first man, Ali was the first young man, Khadija was the first woman, and Bilal was the first, and Al-Hib ibn al-Hib was the first slave. Zayd ibn Harith, who was called, at that before Islam was called Zayd ibn Muhammad, was the first slave. So imagine Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, once he converted to Islam, the Prophet ﷺ, everyone I called for Islam had some hesitation except for Abu Bakr. He never hesitated. He converted to Islam immediately. The next day, Abu Bakr came with 4 or 5 people, 5 people from among the people promised Jannah. So the next day, Abu Bakr came with Uthman ibn Affan. He was 34 years of age. Abdurrahman ibn Auf was 30 years. Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas was 17 years. Abu Zubayr ibn Awam, 12 years. And Talha ibn Ubaidillah was 13 years. So imagine how diligent Abu Bakr was. He came the next day with 5 people, and those people were promised Jannah. So imagine those people. Imagine the reward that Abu Bakr as-Siddiq gained from those people. So there were other people who converted to Islam because of Abu Bakr. That's why the Prophet ﷺ selected people. So other people was Osman ibn Maz'un, Abu Salama ibn Abd al-Asad, Abu Ubaidah ibn al-Jarrah, Arqam ibn Abi al-Arqam would have a very critical role in this stage. وخباب بن أراد وعمار بن ياسر وأمه of course وأبوه. So عمار بن ياسر وياسر وسمية عمار. Those are the first Muslims. So this stage actually scholars say the private da'wah lasted for around 3 years. The Prophet ﷺ was calling for Islam privately for 3 years. And as I said, Al-Arqam ibn Abi al-Arqam was at that time was around 13 years old. And his house was above the mountain Safa. So the Prophet ﷺ chose his house to be the house where he started his da'wah, where he met with all the companions at that time. Dar al-Arqam ibn Abi al-Arqam. So the Prophet ﷺ met all the Muslims. They used to meet secretly away from Quraysh at the house of Al-Arqam. Okay, why? For many reasons. One of them is that the house of Al-Arqam was away from the Quraysh and it was above the mountain, so they can see anyone coming to them. And also Al-Arqam was from the sub-tribe of Makhzum, and the Prophet ﷺ was from Abdul Muttalib. So they are enemies. And no one would ever think that the Prophet ﷺ would go to one of his enemies, not one of the enemies of his tribe, let's say. So that's why the Prophet ﷺ chose Dar al-Arqam to be the meeting house, the meeting venue for the Muslims at that time. So this stage, again, the private da'wah, they said that around 40 companions converted. 40 companions during this time. Some of the mustashriqeen, some of Orientalists, they accuse the Prophet ﷺ of being the leader of only the lower class. They said only people who are from the lower class converted to Islam. But actually, if you review the names of the 40 people, you would see that around only 30 of them are lower class and slaves. Most of them were from the elite, including Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, Abu Bakr, Talha, as we said, Abd al-Rahman ibn Auf, so many people, Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas, so many people were from the elite of Quraysh. Some of them were slaves. We know that Khabbab ibn Arat, Ammar ibn Yasir, Suhaib al-Rumi, those were slaves, were from the lower class, but they were not majority as deceivingly said by some Orientalists. So there were some lower class people, but not the majority. So I'll go through some of the first converts to Islam and see how they were looking for the truth. They were not just, they didn't meet the Prophet ﷺ coincidentally by chance. No, some of them were traveling to meet the Prophet ﷺ. Abu Dharr al-Ghifari actually was from Ghifar. Qabilat Ghifar was very famous of being like thieves. Whenever a caravan moving from Quraysh, from Mecca to Medina, they lived between Mecca and Medina. So whenever there was any caravan moving from Mecca and Medina, they used to steal those caravans. And that's why they were very famous of being not good people, let's say. So Abu Dharr al-Ghifari was looking for the truth. So he knew that someone, as I said, it was not secret. He knew that there was someone at Quraysh promoting a new religion. So he sent his brother, and his brother came back. He said, "What did you find?" He said, "I found someone who was like promoting good ethics and saying I didn't think this is poetry, something which is not poetry." So he said, "No, this is not enough for me. Like you didn't give me what I'm looking for." So he actually traveled himself to Quraysh. And when he went to Mecca, to the Kaaba, he was like the Kaaba, Mecca was the number of people was very limited. So Ali ibn Abi Talib noticed someone who is not from Mecca. He said, "You are a stranger?" He said, "Yes, I am a stranger." Ali ibn Abi Talib at that time was around 13. So this was around the third year of Da'wah. So he said, "Come with me." So Ali ibn Abi Talib invited him to his house to be his guest, and he generously gave him food, and allowed him some accommodation, let's say. He didn't ask him for anything. So the next time he started to have some doubts about him, I said, "What are you looking for, actually?" Abu Dharr al-Ghifari, told him, "If I tell you, would you keep my secret?" He said, "Yes, I will." He said, I heard about someone at Quraysh who is like promoting a new religion. I'd like to meet with this person." As I said, this was very confidential for the Prophet ﷺ. He would not allow anyone to go to the Prophet ﷺ. So Ali ibn Abi Talib had a sense of confidentiality and privacy. So he told him, "Okay, come with me. I will go to the Kaaba to show you this man." He didn't know that this was the Prophet. "If I feel any doubt, any suspicions around you, I will pretend that I'm fixing my shoes. Then you go away. If not, I will show you this man." So he actually went into the Kaaba and he met the Prophet ﷺ, and he converted to Islam. He said, "عرض علي الإسلام فأسلمت." He explained Islam to me, and I converted to Islam. At the beginning, the Prophet ﷺ, as I said, because he knew that this man is from Ghifar, and Ghifar was not like had some famous of being thieves, so he had some doubts. He did not disclose to him everything about Islam or about the places where they meet or the Muslims who converted to Islam. So at that time, the first time of Dawah, only 7 Muslims publicly announced their conversion to Islam. Only 7 people. The Prophet ﷺ, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, Bilal, وخباب بن الأرت, وصهيب الرومي, وعمار بن ياسر, وأمه سمية. Those are the only 7 people who publicly announced being Muslims. However, Abu Dharr al-Ghifari, once he met with the Prophet ﷺ, the Prophet told him, okay, Abu Dharr, go to your tribe. When you know that we are victorious, come back to us. Abu Dharr told the Prophet ﷺ, aren't we on the truth? Aren't we following the truth? He said, yes. So he said, I will publicly announce my conversion to Islam in the Kaaba, in Mecca. So he went to the people of Quraysh and he said, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa Muhammad Rasulullah in public. So they started to beat him. They started to beat him until his face was not recognizable from the blood that was shed on his face. So Al-Abbas, Amm Rasulullah came to him to save him, and he told him, أتضربون رجلا من غفار? Are you hitting someone from Ghifar? They will stop your caravans. They will stop your trade. They will steal your money. Then the next time, again, Abu Dharr said, 3 times. He would say this and they would start hitting him until, as I said, his face was not recognizable. So those people were brave. Abu Dharr al-Ghifari was a brave man. He converted to Islam and he publicly announced that he converted to Islam. He was not coward. So those are the people who publicly announced the conversion to Islam. And the one was, at that time, Quraysh knew that the Prophet ﷺ was promoting a new religion. Let's say a new religion, okay? But although it was not new, they should have been on the Hanif religion, which is Hanifiyya, which means they are following the traditions or the deen of Ibrahim alayhi salam. Some people from Quraysh before the Prophet ﷺ were following the Prophet or the deen of Ibrahim. Okay, Zayd ibn Amr was following the religion of Ibrahim before the Prophet ﷺ. And some people were also even Christians in Quraysh. So the Quraysh said, Muhammad will be like other people. He would like to have some followers and then he will go away and he will die like other people, like Zayd ibn Amr ibn Nufayl. He was a Hanifi. So he will be like other people and he will die and his call will die. His religion will die. They didn't believe that this religion was sent to stay. Okay, so they didn't want to stop the Prophet ﷺ at the beginning in the private da'wah stage. So some Muslims like Ammar ibn Yasir and Yasir, his brother, his father, and Sumayya, his mother, they were all slaves of Bani Makhzum. So Bani Makhzum started to torture them. They would go take them في رمضاء Mecca in the very hot sand of Mecca during the noon, and they would put them on the ground and torture them. And the Prophet ﷺ at that time was only protected by himself, was protected by Abi Talib. Abi Talib was protecting the Prophet, and Abu Bakr was protected by his tribe. Those are the elite, but like lower class didn't have any protection. So Ammar ibn Yasir and Sumayya didn't have any protection. The Prophet ﷺ would go pass by them while being tortured and he used to say, Sabran ala Yasir fa inna maw'idukum al-jannah. Oh Yasir and Yasir's family, be patient. I promise you paradise. Maw'idukum al-jannah, we will meet at the paradise. And Abu Hakam, Abu Jahl actually killed Sumayya, and Sumayya was the first martyr in Islam. Sumayya was the first martyr in Islam. So the Prophet ﷺ promised them paradise, and Sumayya was the first martyr in Islam. And Yasir also was dead from the torture, the kind of torture that he received. كان عمار يعذب حتى لا يدري ما يقول. So Ammar used to be tortured until he was not able to understand what he's saying. So that even they asked him to curse the Prophet ﷺ and to praise their idols and their religion. He came to the Prophet ﷺ with a pale face and he said, what happened to you? He said, they forced me to curse you and to praise their religion, and I did. He was afraid that this would be like the Prophet ﷺ would reprimand him for this. The Prophet ﷺ told him, he said, what about your heart? Is your heart full of Iman? He said, yes, my heart is full of Iman. Is your heart full of Iman? He said, yes, my heart is full of Iman. He said, in adu fa'ud. As long as your heart is full of Iman, if they ask you to curse me again, curse me, no problem, as long as you have your Iman in your heart. Okay, so this was what happened with Ammar ibn Yasir and Abu Dharr al-Ghifari. And actually, during that time, there was only prescribed salah for 2 rak'ahs only, one in the morning and one in the afternoon, or one during the sunset. This was the only kind of salah that was prescribed. And it was said that the Prophet ﷺ was taught by Sayyidina Jibreel how to pray and how to make wudu. Jibreel came down to the Prophet ﷺ. He taught him how to make wudu and how to pray. Why do we think this? Why people think that this has happened already? Because the Prophet ﷺ, when he went to the Isra and Mi'raj, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked him to make the prayer, but he didn't tell him how to pray. This means that he knew already how to pray before Isra and Mi'raj. So the Prophet ﷺ knew how to make the prayer, and he used to pray only 2 rak'ahs in the morning and in the at noon. So as I said, the da'wah was not limited to Quraysh. The da'wah was not limited to the Bani Hashim, the close tribe of the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet ﷺ started to make da'wah among all Quraysh and among other tribes outside Quraysh. But this was still a low profile, let's say a low profile da'wah, which means he did not promote da'wah actively, and he was very selective when he chose some people. The next step would be the public da'wah. And when he started to فَاصْدَعْ بِمَا تُؤْمَرْ, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him to now publicly announce what you have been ordered to do. And inshallah, next time we'll speak about the public da'wah, and this will be the end of our session today.